Hi, it's Jenny from Kosi 101.1 and today's Real Funny Friends, Sam Adams. And you're going to be at Comedy Works.
Yes, Comedy Works South.
I love that one. That's my favorite one. Like, it's so close to my home, and I love that they opened it up, and it's, there's so much good food around there, too.
Yeah, that's the cushy one.
That's the cushy one.
I call Comedy Works South the Ball Arena.
Oh, gotcha.
I call Comedy Works Downtown the YMCA. It's a gym thing. It's a workout thing. Both of them are great.
I love it. I think we're spoiled because we have so many great opportunity to see artists like yourself. And you and I, I've known you and I've seen you so many times since probably I began in radio. That was like 15 years ago, I think it was, 14 years ago. I started in radio and I remember Mud Flap.
I'm only 30.
But you remember Mud Flap?
Yeah.
So I just remember we'd go. I remember one time we went and saw you with him and I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. Because you do a lot of sports stuff too. And I like sports. It's things like that. But we were talking this morning. One of my trivia questions was what's the stinkiest smell? Body odor is number one, obviously. But yours is what?
Mine is hockey locker room. Oh. There's funk and then there's hockey locker room funk. Because it's a combination of the sweat on those leather pads that they play, and then it just
there's not enough Febreze in the world to get rid of it.
It's not enough anything. It's so bad that they have two locker rooms. They have the locker room where they get their equipment off, and then they have the next locker room where they put their clothes and they take their shower. Like the funk is so bad that they don't want it to get on their street clothes.
So I wonder why is that a hockey thing, just a hockey thing? Because I know other locker rooms still stink. Don't get me wrong.
Well, it's just the funk itself. Yeah, like basketball players, they sweat and all, but you don't get that smell.
Yeah, well, they don't have the huge pads that soak it in, right?
For anybody that knows what chitlins smells like, it's sweaty leather plus chitlins plus Bengay all together.
So basically, it smells
times 25 players.
The retirement home my parents live in, essentially, is what you're explaining to me.
Hey, old people might go, the seniors might go, I like that. But as young people, no.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Like if you have kids and you want to teach them a lesson.
Yeah, this is what your room smells like.
Yeah.
I would say mine is like malt vinegar. When people eat the fish and chips and that malt vinegar on it. So I worked at Red Robin back in college. And so when somebody would break one of those on the main line that we would work on, for weeks, it smelled like a nasty, stinky sock, foot, whatever. It's gross.
But see, that's interesting because I like malt.
I don't mind the taste, but the smell.
Malt liquor.
Hey, look, we're equal opportunity.
No, I like malt vinegar, but I've never noticed.
You never noticed the smell?
No.
So all the tables around you going, oh my God, what is that smell? You never noticed that?
No.
So now I'm sorry because I probably ruined it for you. Because now next time you're at a restaurant, you order it, you're like, everyone's looking over, you're like, I showered, it's my fish and chips.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's weird. We all have different memories with smell too. So, and you do a lot of sports stuff like that. Do you do a lot of coverage on that and things like that?
Well, I've just started from a comedy standpoint. I've just started to do more sports. I'll give you one story from the Press Pass show.
Okay.
And the Press Pass show is all about my previous career as a sports journalist. When I first started doing comedy, people that knew I was into sports was saying, you should do sports in your comedy act. And I was like, no, because I'm in the locker room with these guys all the time.
Oh, yeah.
If I start telling jokes about,
Stories,
certain players, it's going to get back and,
no one's going to want to talk to me anymore.
But I decided, and this was early on in my career, I decided I was going to do a sports joke. It involved Terrell Davis. At the time, he was injured again, and he had a party, and Brian Griese was a Broncos quarterback, and Brian was at the party. Now, depending on who you ask, Brian Griese either tripped and fell down the driveway, or he got punched. It just depends on who you ask. But the bottom line is he went tumbling down Terrell's driveway. And so my joke was Brian Griese fell down Terrell Davis's driveway, but it never should have happened because if anybody should have had handicap railing in their driveway, it's Terrell Davis. He's always hurt. And the audience laughed. And I felt good when I walked up the stage. I was like, hey, I got a big laugh. I can do sports jokes. And when I came off the stage, there were 3 ladies that walked up, and I was like, ladies, I'll sign autographs in the lobby. I'm a little busy right now, but they weren't there for autographs. The lady in the middle goes, I didn't appreciate what you said about my son.
Oh no, TD's mom was there.
It was TD's mom. And the lady to her right, so TD's mom goes,
yeah.
she says, yeah, I know who you are. You write for the newspaper and you on TV sometimes. I know who you are, and I know Terrell knows who you are, and we're going to see how funny you are when I tell him what you said. And the lady on her right goes, yeah. And I was like, did that just come out of her mouth? You know, because
Like,
this was a little bitty lady. So I'm freaking out over what
You're
this
like,
lady
oh, yeah,
sounds like. you know?
terrified.
And so then I look back and I go, oh my God. And I started thinking the Campbell Soup commercial, and I'm looking at that. I'm like, oh, that is Terrell's mother. And so I'm like starting to
You're
sweat.
like, Mama Bear's
and she's
mad.
like, oh yeah, I'm gonna tell him. Yeah, you think you're funny, huh? Yeah, you know. And so I started walking away, and she goes, hey, and keep in mind, the show was still going on. This was a new talent night.
Yeah.
And so the show is still, but the people who were close to us are all looking at us.
They're all going,
like,
oh.
yeah, he looked like he about to get his butt whooped, you know? And so, and the third lady just stood there like she might have had a pistol or something. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I
She
was
had the
looking at her.
resting, like, no thanks face.
So I started walking away, and TD's mom goes, hey, and I turned around, she goes, but it was funny. And
You're like, you just literally, I'm sweating through my. I
Yeah.
smell like a hockey locker room, and you're sitting here telling me you were joking.
true story, about 6 years ago.
That's
I
awesome.
want to say it was 2016, somewhere in there. I was at a liquor store in Aurora, and after I got it was a holiday season. I got my little holiday cheer, and I'm walking
Sure.
out, and,
Holiday, yeah.
and the cashier comes out and goes, hey, are you Sam Adams? And I go, yeah. And I thought maybe I left my credit card
Yeah, you're
in
like,
the store.
that's how you know my
So
name.
he said, wait right here. And I'm reaching, and I'm like, oh, I got my card. And then this lady comes out. It was Terrell's mom.
Okay, she's like, she's just haunting you.
She said, I was standing behind you in the line, but I wasn't sure if it was you. So I asked the guy to ask you. And we hugged, and
I
she
love that.
said, I still tell that story to everybody.
Oh, that's so cute.
And so, yeah.
It's fun. I feel like it probably works a little bit more in your comedy and stuff now, because I feel like it's a lot of Hollywood and mainstream when we're talking about football players, especially and basketball players. There seems to be a very genuine, like, they're just part of the conversation more than they used to be. Even people, I mean, not to mention Taylor Swift, who I love her, by the way, but not to mention like all these people now that are following football because of her. I feel like there's a lot of that going on, like crossing over genres and all that.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I was in the media business of covering like the Broncos and covering the NFL, the money, for one thing, not nearly as what it is right now.
Yeah.
But the game itself is what it is, and I was around those guys every day covering the team, and it's become so money driven now that it's just not the same. It's not fun to watch, to be honest, at least for me. I just want to know who won or lost. I don't want to know.
There's just a lot more stuff going on outside of it,
you know?
that is more like it used to be about the game, but now it's all the other stuff, like the circus that goes around it. I don't feel like that. I mean, at least 10 years ago would have been the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with my friends sometimes, and we sit around, we're talking sports, and I go, hey, so what classes are your sons taking? And they go, oh, no. And I go, hey, how much does Russell Wilson make? Well, you know, he's got injury clause, and then he's got a escalator for touchdowns thrown. Like
And he's stealing it, and here's his percentage.
Yeah, they know all of that,
Yeah.
but they don't even know what their kids are doing.
Yeah.
They know what somebody else is making
Yeah.
in pro sports, but they don't know how much they have in their own checkbook.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know.
I'm like, mine's like 3 digits if you count the cents, and then they have like all these like $6 million contracts. And
Yeah, so that, you know, and I think just really
bonuses.
for me, because I was around it for so long, it's made it to where now I just want to make fun of it.
yeah.
And I don't have to worry about
But now
anybody
you
getting in
can.
my face.
You have
Yeah.
the stage to do that. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, whatever.
Yeah. So like in Press Pass, it's just all these stories, a little bit like TD's mom,
Mm-hmm.
but stories, encounters I had with guys like Tiger Woods and Charles Barkley and
Are you gonna write
John
a book?
Elway. I've already written one book.
Really?
Yeah, it's called "If You Don't Believe Me: Lessons Learned from Listening to the Greats."
That's
And
awesome.
it's just a compilation
I know
of
what I'm
all
doing.
the guys that I interview, and women, and not just sports, but in entertainment. You know, I tell people about phone calls from people like Paul Newman, walking the golf course with Kevin Costner.
Because that's what people want to know. Like, they're like, how are they really? I'm
Yeah,
like,
you want to, you know,
Yeah.
and I've been fortunate over the years to have experiences to be able to tell people.
so one last one. What was your favorite experience with like an artist or a football player, like you will always, that's like your favorite thing ever with them, particularly?
I tell the story in the show about Nolan Ryan, who was
Mm-hmm.
a pitcher with the Texas Rangers, and I got to interview him. I might be, I don't have proof, but I might be the last journalist to have a full-length interview with
Oh,
him.
wow.
It was his last season.
Mhm.
He pitched for 400 years, I think.
Yeah.
Nolan was an old dude.
Oh, yeah.
And in his last season, he got in a fight with a guy from the Chicago White Sox, and it's known as him giving them the noogies. He put the guy in the headlock, some young dude, Robin Ventura. And a couple weeks later, I came to Texas to interview him, and the Rangers didn't even know that I was supposed to. Like the Denver Post didn't request my press pass.
Oh, no. It's you're
So
like,
when I showed up, they were like, "Who are you?" And so they had to go and ask Nolan, and Nolan was kind enough to give me the interview. And the setting of the interview and the length of the interview and where it took place is what makes it memorable for me. That's the story I tell in press pass.
I love that.
It was an odd setting.
I
and,
love this, though.
We had a great time.
So these are all parts of the stories that you can see. Check them out. Comedy Works South, and it's comedyworks.com. You can go Sam Adams, see that, and then I got to go get that book.
Yeah,
I
you
gotta
do.
get the book, right? I'm a
Yeah.
reader too.
I should have brought. You know what?
You should have signed a copy, because I'm gonna be one day. I'd be like, I remember the story I heard from about Terrell Davis's mom. Like, we gotta all own it a little bit. We're like, so I'm sitting down with the Sam Adams, and he's telling me about Terrell Davis's mom.
She's probably watching.
I know.
This and
Sorry,
gonna
Mama
go,
TD.
Gonna go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See, that's the
brought a
mom
book.
voice.
Yeah.
Should have brought the book. Oh my God, Kosi 101.1. It is Jenny's Real Funny Friends.